Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I said, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Center for Talking Arts. We appreciate you all being here, and thank you for being here for our monthly. For the first Friday of the month, we have a Storytellers night. Please help me welcome with a big round of applause your host for the evening, Sir Mike DERBECKER.
I have just been knighted, Sir Michael DERBECKER. I love it, man. If that name is not dignified enough to actually be a knighthood, but hey. Firstly, it's the first Friday in September. Thank you, everybody who has come out here tonight. This is very, very cool. I have an open question to the audience, and this is not a confrontational question. It's literally, why are you here? I mean, like, who is here who wants to perform versus who is here who just wants to watch, and why have you decided to come here tonight rather than anything else? Does anyone have anything to volunteer? A little different? Okay, that counts.
People on the couch.
Oh, us?
Yep.
We just saw the sign, we're waiting for the bus. And that's not even our regular bus.
That is the best answer I could have possibly had. I toast you, Nostrovia. This is very cool. Storytelling is kind of a... Sorry, what was your rationale?
I'm the bus driver, there's nobody on the bus.
So you definitely work for Hamilton Transit, of course. It makes sense. Storytelling is a little weird and a little niche. I've been doing it for, oh my God, 15 years. I used to be an actor before that, and I've actually been performing as a storyteller in Toronto and in Hamilton since then. It's kind of a weird niche thing to do because it's not quite stand-up. It's not always funny. Sometimes it's dramatic. Sometimes you get comedy, drama, tragedy, ridiculousness, erotica, all in one story. And I always liked people who can get away with that, who can go from light to dark and light and dark. So I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen tonight. Some of the performers I have seen before, and for anybody who knows me and I've seen you on stage before, thank you for coming back. I've been really lucky because in the events I've hosted, most of the people I've seen perform, by the end of their set, I'm saying, you can come back anytime you want. So this is definitely cool. I got a couple of bookkeeping things. First, as always, thank you to Jake, thank you to George for encouraging my behavior and letting me do this. I have been doing this for around the last year. It's always fun. If anybody, like I said earlier, is thirsty, hungry, etc., there are various refreshments over there. Is anybody here naked? Okay, I said nobody would be naked on stage. What's happening? Only the cat. Oh, that's too easy. So many things I could say.
It had to be said.
Someone had to say it, yeah. Okay, I'm assuming nobody's naked. We can talk about it after the show. There are sorted T-shirts that are hung up along the wall. There are some in the cubby over there. If anybody wants a T-shirt, please talk to Jake. I'm sure he would be delighted to give you one for a jingle of coin. If you're coming up to perform, and I hope you are, a couple of things. This is being broadcast, so it's being streamed on YouTube. So if I know anybody in Europe who's watching me, hi, how are you? Because you're not here. I don't know why I said Europe. I don't know anybody in the States right now. And it's kind of scary there, but I'm not going to say it on camera because I might want to go. Anyhow, you know the rest. If you are going to perform and you do not want to be streamed for whatever reason, please just tell me or tell George over there, and we will suspend the broadcast. Pardon? Opt out. Yeah, just say opt out. If you've done your set and you want to have a video recording of what you've done, you may notice there are cameras all around here. For $10, one of the nice gentlemen here will give you a recording of your set if you give them your email address. If I missed anything. There are no topic restrictions, outside of good taste, and if you want to go past that, please do. I'm going to regret saying that, aren't I? Hopefully not. No content restrictions. Anything, you're willing to do in public, please do it here. Why do I sound scared doing that? I used to do sets in Toronto where I did a set where someone said, go up and do something truly unspeakable. And by around the third person who did something really unspeakable on stage, they said, we've taken a vote of the audience performers, and now we just want you to read the Bible or something like that. Use your best judgment is what I'm saying. That's all we can ask of anybody. And without further ado, I've mentioned the T-shirt. Any questions? You guys are shy. Okay, I'm going to work on that. Get the show on the road. The first person I have seen in the flesh, and I don't remember. Let me rephrase that really quickly. I have met this gentleman. I have seen this gentleman on a stage someplace in this city, but I've not seen him perform. And I'm going to mess up his last name. He was one of the first people to sign up tonight. His name is Izzy Cosimino. Comiso. Come on up.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a ridiculous name, guys. Izzy Camisa. That's my real name, too, but me to the register, gives me my money back and goes, listen, friend, I think it's best for everybody in the community if you take your time and come back another day when you've regained composure. He's doing this whole fucking magician thing too the whole time. I'm like, again, all right.
Firstly, one more time for Izzy, please. My God, it's a hell of a start. Secondly, I think we are brothers in some sense, sir, because I have also had horrible experiences with yoga. I have not taken any type of yoga class since like the late 90s. I had 2 different girlfriends, very different times, very different personalities. They both dragged me to yoga courses, and they were the most touchy-feely, just do what your body tells you. Just do what you feel. Listen to your body and see what nature tells you to do. And I'd say, okay, so you want me to stretch like this? They go, oh God, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wait, you're blaspheming this entire act. No, they're fine. The guy over there who's limping, he's fine. And this woman who can't do it, she's trying at least. But you don't. Look, your leg is wrong, Michael. Okay, should I try it again? Well, maybe you could just go have tea instead. So I feel your pain, dude. I truly do. I just want to, there's one thing I forgot to mention before I started all this. There's going to be a light over there. If the light is yellow, that means please kind of wrap yourself up in around like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And when it's red, you're finished. And after that, there might be a shot. It's okay, it'll be quite painless. I will not feel a thing. Yes. Okay. The next person I talked to briefly before this all started because she knows a small town that I used to know. Kind of north. What direction is Arthur from here? Northish, northeast? That way. It is a town in the middle of nowhere that I would drive through as a kid to the town where my father grew up, which is in the middle of nowhere. My father grew up among German Baptists, and they're really wacky people. Yeah. Oh, you understand? Yeah. The Baptists are really nice people. No drinking, no dancing. Yeah, so my grandfather behind his back was referred to as Mr. Party. But I know the area from where she has come, and this is her first time performing here, and I really want to hear what she's going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Shelley.
Okay, it is true. This is my first time on a stage telling a story. Yes. It took 2 storytelling events for me to attend because I had to figure out what the hell I was doing. So we still don't know, but we're going to try. Hello, my name is Shelley. Waves at the crowd. Tonight will be momentous for us all. Why? Because after hanging around here a few nights, I think I'm ready to lose my storytelling virginity on this stage right here, right now. But before we get all excited about seeing some skin needing a Botox update on this stage tonight, or as my friend used to say, someone get that woman an iron. Let's go back to how my store making journey is to begin. At first, I was going to just tell a simple story about a dog, a fish, and a picnic. But that seemed too mild, not fitting for an on-stage global YouTube deflowering. So we're going to talk about the shoes. The shoes? Yes. Here we go. So as a goal of downsizing my clothing proclivities, I started with Facebook Marketplace. I took pictures of my beloved shoes that hurt my feet, and at the last minute jammed my ugly foot with the scars into it. Posted, boom! And the bargaining began. First with the tire kickers. You post at 5 p.m. and at 6 p.m., 17 people have asked if it's still available. Then dead silence. Like God has struck them off the earth for such a stupid question. But onwards. But then I get this curious message from a nice man who's 32. Smoking hot, by the way, but clearly the same age as my grown kids. It starts. Hey, Shelley, I just wanted to say, maybe when you post shoes you are selling, not to include your feet or put socks on. Me, dear listeners, I'm sure you know where this is going. Like it's clear as day, but I shall continue his message. As someone with a foot fetish, you have extremely beautiful feet. Me, really? Because I put the ugly foot in the shoe. And then him. And you're probably getting tons of messages from creepy guys. Nope, not a one. You're the first, dude. Then him. Sorry, it's not my place to say this. Aw, he's helping out this poor doddering old lady that is me. How sweet. Me, after laughing for several minutes, responds, Dear foot guy, I'm no stranger to fetishes and have no issues with people getting off by looking at my feet. Never yuck anyone's yum, I always say, but thanks for your concern. I just want to sell the shoes. Foot guy, you're so cool! So, dear listeners, where does this story end? This old lady has received 3 offers for dates from young men clearly the same age as my sons, all based on my spur-of-the-moment foot cameo. I blocked them. But the first guy, well, we're friends now. We're going for coffee, where I will be wearing socks. And the shoes, still unsold.
We have just had someone deflowered. In terms of storytelling on stage, I keep saying this is not a nude show, but I think she deserves more applause, please. Woo! Just for the record, how many foot fetishists do we have in the audience? We'll talk about that later. I don't want to make this about me, but I very briefly dated kind of a foot fetishist, and we did not last. She was into feet, which I am in no way, shape, or form into, and she also liked how does one put this politely? She liked the idea of being confined, like having her hands gently tied with something, which does nothing for me. This kind of creeps me out, and I had no interest in doing this. But one afternoon, I was at her place, and she kind of tied herself with a string, with a scarf, to a bedpost, and said, "You can do anything you want." And I said, "Anything?" And she said, "Anything." So I went downstairs. I checked out the fridge. It was great. She had some pizza over from the other night, and I warmed up the pizza, and she had a nice big TV, and I sat there, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and Bugs Bunny was on. And it's great, because I love Bugs Bunny. I haven't done that for a while. And I looked around, I found a beer. I didn't want beer. I had a Diet Coke instead. I'm sitting there watching the, "Hey, what, are you okay up there? You good? Okay, yeah. I'm doing exactly what I want right now." Dead silence. I went up around 10 minutes later, and she's kind of sitting there like this. The relationship did not work out. Anyhow, That's another story. Thank you for telling us about your feet, and no one here had to know about my Bugs Bunny fetish. But now you know it, so I feel like we all know each other a little bit more. The next person who's going to come up, I have seen here. I have seen them do stand-up, and they've done my storytelling event once or twice. I haven't seen them in person for a while, and I'm really happy they're about to be here, and here they come. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Toshi!
Hi. So, I'm glad you're here. Like, yeah, these are the moments we write into screenplays. Yeah. I was discussing with George, Jake, and Amon outside. Oh, Amon had already left. So, George said something about morality, that his life is basically built on morality, but with sprinkles of religion. And I totally agreed with that, and I really relate to that, especially when it comes to religion. One thing that atheists and theists have in common is that none of them want to actually die tomorrow and find out whether their belief is true. Like, ask a Christian whether he would want to die tomorrow and meet Jesus, the same Jesus that he really loves, and he would say no. So, but basically, whether we are dead or not, of course, all of us are going to pass at some point. I feel like the closest we can get to reaching a consensus as humans, no matter our beliefs, is to agree in love. And for me, I divide love into two different bases. The first base being the one I'm interested in tonight. The first base is basically love being non-judgmental. And the second stage, which we wouldn't really discuss tonight, is love as compassion. But I feel like, and in fact, saying this to Canadians is probably like preaching to the choir, because you are like literally raised to be nice people, so you understand the not being judgmental angle to love. So why do people like buy dogs in the first place? We were discussing dogs earlier. People apart from Nigerians who buy dogs for security, right? Yeah, but I think that what makes people fall in love with dogs is the fact that no matter how evil you think you are, no matter how bad your past is, your dog looks at you the same way at every point. So that's one friend you are sure would never look at you different, even if you hurt it. And that's basically what we want from ourselves as neighbors, as friends, as family members. Just people who would look at you as human and give you those exceptions, understanding that you are allowed to fail and that, in fact, failure is a basic necessity for us. Because if God, and this is me talking as a Christian, if God is all-powerful and really wanted everyone to be perfect, he would have created everyone perfect. So the fact that you can sin is a testament to the fact that he wants you to be able to fall and rise. And if we are to relate to this as humans, we can basically say that, which is basically what Jesus said, right? Like, in the Bible, I don't know how many Christians are here, but our point of reference for me on stage would be the Bible. Like, do not judge others so you wouldn't be judged. And do not judge yourself, because if you judge yourself, you end up judging others. And that's why people with anxiety tend to judge others differently or harshly, because the love you can't give yourself, you can't give to any other person. And like I said, if we are still using the Bible as a reference for this, judging yourself would even be understandable. If you judge yourself harshly and judge others harshly, we could say that, oh, you are not doing it intentionally, and it could be forgiven. But Jesus, who is the point of reference for my talk tonight, the only people he judged in the Bible were the Pharisees, the scribes, and the Sadducees. And basically, their sin was that they lied to others. Like, they would commit sins and then go outside and tell people not to commit sins, imprison people, and all. And those were the only people that Jesus judged in the Bible. And you wouldn't tell, he met sinners, he met thieves. For Christians who believe that homosexuality is a sin, he must have met homosexuals. He even dined in the home of a thief. And one interesting thing that I noticed that ran through the curse of the Bible is that he would never tell you to stop sinning unless you asked him for a suggestion. There is this story about Zacchaeus, who was a tax collector. Tax collectors are basically sinners in the Bible and thieves. And the story is that Jesus visited him in his home, and they were dining. People outside were judging Jesus for being in the home of a sinner. Jesus didn't for once ask him to repent, until Zacchaeus asked him, "What should I do to be saved?" And that was when Jesus, basically, paraphrasing, told him to go and do good to others. So I would try to end the notes here. So even on his, on the cross when he was about to die, we read that Jesus was nailed to the cross in between two thieves. So one of the thieves told him, or basically mocked him for being nailed to the cross with them, and the other thief shunned the thief that mocked him. Jesus turned to the other thief, who showed him compassion, and he told him that he would be with him in heaven that night. But that same Bible didn't tell us that he judged the thief who mocked him. So we could assume that that same thief, if there is a heaven, could probably still make that heaven, because Jesus never judged him. We only know of who he rewarded, but there was no need for a punishment for the other person. Why? Because the whole essence of humanity and the whole essence of true Christianity is not to judge others and not to judge yourselves. And people would say that you shouldn't judge someone unless you've walked in their shoes. But I even think that that's keeping the standard too low. Because you might walk in someone's shoes and the shoes will still fit you. So I would basically say, don't judge anyone unless you've walked in their shoes and you've had all the single emotions that they had while walking in those shoes. Thank you so much.
One more time, please, for Toshi. So my point earlier that some stories are funny, some stories are philosophical. I mean, that one was beautiful. And speaking as someone who went to Baptist Sunday school for years and years, I heard a lot of variations on that. The whole idea about you're not supposed to judge anybody. You're not supposed to judge yourself. You should also not judge yourself what's the word I'm looking for? Too highly. Remember President Clinton and his little treats, little diversions. One of the people who wanted to get him impeached was a congresswoman. Somebody found out she had an affair the year before, and she said, well, okay, it might look bad that I'm trying to get someone impeached for having an affair, and I also had an affair, but I did stop the affair, and I know that God forgave me. And the entire press corps was like, oh, really? Can we have a quote on that? Do you have an email address? Do you have a fax number that we can get this from the Almighty? And she never spoke again. So you got to be really careful on those lines. Thank you for telling the story. That is very cool. And on the philosophical bend, Jake, who's going to come up next, is a philosopher first and foremost. And I believe actually has a degree in it, right? Several. I just have one, and it almost killed me. He is a founder of this particular location, and I always sound like I'm blowing smoke, but I'm very happy he lets me do this kind of thing across the board, and I'm always happy to introduce him. So, Jake Cenk.
Thanks everyone for coming. So we've had pornography and God, I guess, are the two main themes. I don't know if I can put them together, but I guess, yeah, I am a philosopher. Thanks, Mike. I'm actually a trained philosopher. And what does a philosopher do? I mean, I've kind of boiled it down to two things, basically. To seek out answers to the question of, the first question being, what's going on? Like in the broadest sense. What's going on really? You know, science really tackles that in a really good way. The scientific method is really useful for us to find that out. And, you know, so I took that route, which was the rationalist route, that you might call it. You know, the Enlightenment project, where you break everything down to its constituent parts and you figure shit out and you put it back together and you understand the universe. I would look at spirituality and God and religion and all that as nonsense. Like, that's what they would sometimes call it technically, because it didn't have sense. You know, like they would say something like that. And I was that asshole atheist kid in high school, you know, who was always poking holes in everybody's religious beliefs. And, you know, I took that project and midlife, I don't know, maybe it's a midlife crisis, but I combined it with psychedelics. So you had philosophy and psychedelics, and strange things happen. I ended up, you know, talking to God on many occasions, and you could imagine what that does to somebody who is hyper-rational and thinks, you know, you understand it in these terms. You think, okay, I'm hallucinating, I have these avatars in my head because of what I've learned in my culture and this and that, and, you know, you make rational explanations for it. You know, one time I remember I was, and I guess it was kind of a balloon. You think of it like a balloon, like a mushy balloon, but the balloons that, you know, where the people twist into shape and make, you know, dogs and cats or whatever. And I was speaking to this entity who basically was telling me, and again, it's not necessarily in words, but it was saying something like, you could see me like this, and like a part of the balloon would pop out, and it would be like, you know, like a Muslim version of a god. Or you could think of me like this, and like, you know, a Christian. Or you could think of me like a Buddha type figure. It was like a balloon was just contorting into different shapes, saying that, you know, whatever you want to think about it, there's kind of this universal field that we are, all of us. And, you know, had I not been so rational, as a lot of people are not, you know, when you have that experience, you think, oh my God, I spoke to God. You know, this is something very special. I must go out and tell the world. I must start my own religion. I might start a cult. People do these things, you know. So that's what I did. Recently put on a one-man show at Fringe called Let's Start a Fake Cult. And literally we're going to start a fake cult. But I mean, why do we even want to join a cult? I mean, it's really just a way to get my shit together, right? You know, like I could join the army or a military or something like that, but that's not going to work for me. It's just not right for me. I had the notion that we could start a group of people in the shape of a cult. It's like a game that's in the shape of a cult, which is also a business. It has front businesses. You know, like cults have front businesses. And one of the front businesses is this building and this CFTA, and we've got a wellness company that sells sugar gummies, but we pretend it's pharmaceuticals. It's fake. It's placebo. Where was I going with this? This is the thing. My talking art is improvisation, so I never know what I'm going to say. Oh, yeah. So one of these times when I was, I guess, tripping, you could say, I had a conversation with my future self. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Like, my future self kind of came to me and said, I can't tell you too much, but what you're doing with this fake cult, keep going. It's pretty good. It's going to lead to some really interesting, fun things. And it was really interesting because he looked younger than me, which is weird, right? And this was like, I don't know, 98 years old or something like that. And he looked younger than me. I asked him, but he said, no, I can't tell you, but things are pretty good. So I had this optimistic idea of the future, which was very much the opposite of what I basically lived my life. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, Cold War, nuclear threat, climate crisis is just starting, and people are talking. I remember in the 80s being very concerned about the climate. Oh, surely things will change by the year 2000. Nothing has happened. It's gotten a lot worse. So another reason to start a cult is it's the end of the world. So, it's a good reason to get people together, to learn to live together. And in fact, David Suzuki, I don't know, you guys know David Suzuki, right? He's the godfather of the environmental movement. He recently said on a podcast, I haven't seen it yet, but he basically said something like, it's over, I'm sorry, it's too late. And all we can do now is hunker down in small communities and try to weather the storms, right? Which is kind of scary. And I had a friend who was the leader of a Green Party in Ontario, and he, more than a decade ago, basically just gave up and moved to the Yukon. Like, a lot of people are thinking, if you talk to them, what the fuck's going to be, what's the world going to be like in 10 years? Everybody has these weird dystopian ideas of what it might be like. So I thought a fun thing to do would be to start a cult. And so next, I'm really just plugging another show that's happening here on, on the 27th of September. It's basically a writer's room. Like a comedy show. I don't know, you guys know the concept of a writer's room. Like the Simpsons or whatever, they all get together in a writer's room and everyone pitches some ideas and they talk about, if we take that theme, we move it there, we could use this in another episode over here, and they work out all these ideas, and then the head writer says, okay, we're going to do this and implement that. It's kind of like that. We're going to have a writer's room for Fake Cult. So people that are interested and have signed up will come in, and we'll talk about designing the cult, rituals, practices, which are maybe goofy, but that's the thing about the placebo effect, as I mentioned earlier. Like, even if you're going through the motions of something and doing something that you even consider silly and, like some kind of ritual, it still has a beneficial effect. It's weird. Even if you tell the people, that's the thing about those placebo drugs, but there's something called nocebo as well. Like, if you know it's a fake drug, it still works. It's weird. It's like if you just go through the motions and move your body and work within this game, I don't know, that's called Western medicine or something like that, it has an effect because you're going through those cycles, those loops, those informational loops. Anyway, so we're going to have fun with that. If you're, around Saturday on the 27th, come by and we can design a cult together. Thank you very much.
One more time for Jake. There might be money in that, Come on, think about L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, he just hung around with science fiction authors and made up something crazy and went, you know what? If people take this seriously, now I'm going to get sued by Scientologists everywhere, aren't I? I love philosophers. I have no idea what the hell they're saying, but they're really interesting to listen to. Next person I have seen here. I've only seen them once or twice. I have absolutely no idea what they're going to say, and I want to see them now because I want to be able to have a mental picture of them for the next event that they show up on so I can plan maybe how to respond, if that makes any sense. Next person is coming up is Akram. And did I pronounce that right, please? I did say that right, yeah?
Yes, you did. Perfect. Nice to meet you. Hi. So I'm Ayman's brother. I'm his older brother, and it is actually my first time here. I've been here before, but I've never actually been on stage before. So, thank you. So basically, I want to start by saying, like, I'm a big kind of geek. I'm a big Marvel fan. Like the superheroes and stuff. So I was watching Daredevil, the original Netflix series. And there was a quote in that series that really stuck with me. I'll share it with you first. So this is Matt Murdock, so Daredevil, talking about how when he lost his sight and then he lost his dad, he was talking to one of the priests at the Catholic Church. And the priest shared something with him to kind of get him through this really tough time in his life. So this is Matt Murdock remembering what the priest told him. He said, "God's plan is like a beautiful tapestry. And the tragedy of being human is that we only get to see it from the back with all the ragged threads and muddy colors. And we only get a hint of the true beauty, we only get a hint at the true beauty that would be revealed if we could see the whole pattern from the other side as God does." And it got me thinking about some of the really tough times that I've been through in my life. So I'll take you back to 2017. At the time, I was living in Egypt. Me and my brother, my other brother, not Ayman, we were living in Egypt, and we both had plans to immigrate to Canada. So we went through the motions. We applied for, express entry and immigrating here. I was also at the time, I was going through a really tough divorce as well. So it was a really, really stressful time. Me, my brother, and one of our friends, we applied for this immigration. And we all got our, immigrants here will understand, we got our invitation to accept. We all got it at the same time. But my brother and my friend, they both got their visas in 2 months, which is like super fast. I was stuck in limbo for like a year. And like I said, at the time, it was a really, really stressful kind of time in my life. I was going through this divorce, and everything was kind of like, I just wanted to start a new page. I wanted to move, and I was like, why is this happening? And I just couldn't understand at the time. But fast forward to 2018, this is at that point, it had been almost a year. And I was working at the time, I'm a pharmacist by trade. I was working, or I have a degree in pharmacy, but I've never practiced pharmacy. I was working as a pharmaceutical sales representative for Pfizer. So at the time, in 2018, they started having to let people go. And I remember at the time thinking, well, I mean, they were giving priority because they had to let a large number of people go. So they were giving priority to people if you want to leave, and then you can get packaged out. So that worked out. I went and I said, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of, I'm going to leave anyway, so I might as well, get some money, right? So thinking back, if I had left, if I had gotten my visa in 2 months, I would have gone, I would have just submitted my resignation, and I would have just left. But the year that I waited, that happened, and I got like a big chunk of cash to leave. 2 months later, I got my visa, and I moved to Canada in 2019. So that worked out. And thinking back, I'm like, okay, so that's what the delay was for. The second thing is when I came here, I'm a fresh off the plane, like a new immigrant. And I wanted to get back into what I love doing, and it's sales. So first thing I did was I got a job because I needed to pay some bills and stuff. So I got a job as a call center representative, and I still get PTSD when I walk into Jackson Square because that's where my first job was. I hated it, but I needed to pay the bills. So I was there for 8 months, and the last thing I wanted to do was get my license as a pharmacist, because it's a really long and very hard journey for international pharmacists. Basically, you have to study 5 years worth of pharmacy school in however long it would take you to sit the exam. It's a very long process, it's very expensive, and it's the last thing I thought about doing. But again, at the time, I started applying to all the pharmaceutical sales jobs. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm a pharmacist. I know how to speak English well, I've got like 11 years of experience from my home country in multinational companies. Of course I'm gonna get an interview. I didn't even get one interview, like not one. And at the time I was like, why is this happening? You know, I've got all this experience, and I was just so upset. But you know what, again, you just have to go with it, and you just have to switch gears, and that's what I did. And I started, you know, like a friend of mine at the time referred me to a paint company. I don't know if you've heard of Sherwin-Williams. So I started working there as an MTP, a management trainee. And while I was doing that, I was like, okay, my plan B, I'm gonna start, you know, getting that pharmacy license. So I started studying, and I started doing these, which was really hard because you're a single parent. You're trying to, you know, do the best for your kids. You're trying to pay the bills. You've got a full-time job, and you're studying this really, really hard, you know, for these really hard exams. So I started doing that, and I started, you know, like doing the exams. There are 3 exams. So while I was working at Sherwin-Williams, I passed my first exam, and then I applied for the second exam, which was really like much harder. While I was in Sherwin-Williams, by luck, one of the sales manager, kind of, I started doing really well in the store, and I caught the attention of the sales manager. And the sales manager said, you know what, I could actually use you as a sales rep. So I applied for a sales position. This guy believed in me. I owe him everything I'm in right now, because he believed in me enough to give me a chance at sales in Canada. And that's what I was missing. I had the relevant experience, but I didn't have the Canadian sales experience. So he gave me that while I was doing my exams, and I became a sales rep for the sales company. 1 year later, on LinkedIn, I get like a recruiter just kind of asks me, hey, we have an opening at a pharmaceutical sales company. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'd be interested. At that point, I was already 1 exam in. I was preparing for my second exam. So I started doing the interviews with this company. It's a Canadian generic company. And it was going really, really well. And then they just suddenly said, hey, you know what? You're great, but it doesn't make sense for us to take you on right now, because the territory is actually really far from where you're living right now. So they put me on hold, and I was like, okay, no problem. You know what? I'm just going to focus on my pharmacy thing, get my license, and that's it. So long story short, I passed my second exam. I booked my third exam, and then right before, like the night before I would leave to Ottawa for my exam, I get a call from the pharmaceutical company saying, hey, we've got a new opening. Would you still be interested? I said, sure, I would be. So they said, okay, we're going to touch base next week. I went, I took my exam. I failed at that exam. That was the first time I ever failed in my life. But like when I failed, it kind of taught me that, you know what, like, it's okay, because I ended up getting the job. And it was a good time in my life, because you know what, yeah, sure, I messed up that exam, but I got a new job, and I got back into so it made me take it much better than I would have if I had failed and not gotten the job. But then I said, you know what, like, I'm already into this. I need to get this, you know, this license, and I did. I passed my third exam. A year later, like just in this March, I got my license. I started practicing as a pharmacist. Thank you. And it gives me a lot of freedom, and I just think back to, again, fresh off the plane, thinking, I don't want to get my license. I don't want to study. I don't want to do this. But because of the doors that were closed, it made me rethink, and it made me get my license, and I'm so glad for that right now. So those 2 things just kind of show that, you know what, it doesn't matter. If you're going through a really tough time, you can do 2 things. You can either give up and say, you know what, like, life sucks right now, and kind of just give up. Or you can say, you know what, maybe this is a redirection. Maybe this is something, you know, that I just need to switch gears. I need to change my plans, right? And the last thing I want to say before I leave is I just want to quote Tupac's song. Tupac is really dear to me. And so in Me Against the World, he says, through every dark night, there's a bright day after that. So no matter how hard it gets, stick your chest out, keep your head up, and handle it. Thank you.
Do I have to say it one more time for Akram? A couple of things. And first time I've said that, come back anytime. That was incredible. You and your brother have the same kind of speech patterns. Different intonations, same patterns, and the same. You both get a lot of information across in a very short amount. Like, this is good. This is a compliment. And to your point about you think you're going to job and it disappears, or you think you can do something and you don't do it properly, it's always amazing how that resolves. I was working for a bank like around 5 years ago, and I was hating it. I was not doing well in that bank whatsoever. I was going crazy. So I spent 6 months sending out resumes from time to time, getting crazier and crazier in this job. And it wasn't a horrible job. It wasn't a good fit. I got a call from my present employer. I won't mention them. And I said, I applied for that job in March, and they called me in October. And they said, well, yeah, we just got to it. And I did an interview, and it went well. I didn't think it was what they wanted. And within 24 hours, a different company called me. It was a different bank, and said, we need somebody with your skill set. I interviewed with them the same day. And I thought, okay, even if I don't get either job, this is a good sign. 48 hours later, I got both jobs. That is impossible. I'm not that good. I'm first to admit it. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. I just sat there going, this is not feasible. I don't know how this happened. I had actually accepted the job with the bank, which was like an 18-month contract, which would have been good. But my present employer, full-time starting, and same salary as the job I had that I wanted out of, and benefits and the whole bit. So I had to decline one, took the other one, and I'm still there. It's just that feeling where a buddy of mine once said, you feel like a load of karma falls off your shoulders. Some part of your brain goes, okay, yeah, this is where you're supposed to be right now. That's such a rare feeling. So, like, congratulations for getting where you went. And anyone has that same feeling. I'm envious and I'm jealous, and I've had it and I understand it. So, way to go. Before I bring up the next person, I just want to look at the bus people again. Babe. Was this worth getting off the bus for? Yeah. Oh, cool. Even better. That is the nicest thing I've heard for months. Very cool. Next person I have seen here before, numerous times. I have cut videos together with him, and it's always great because his timing is perfect, and it's very easy to cut anything he does. Come on up, Eamon.
Keep it going for Mike for giving us the opportunity to tell our stories. And a shout out to my older brother, Akram. You know, it's very nice to have the spoiled one in the family talking about hardships, you know, and failing once in his entire life, you know. In Egypt, where we're both from, you're either a doctor, an engineer, or a disappointment. I am not a doctor or an engineer. But to my defense, I did manage to land a job in Canada before moving to Canada in my field. So, I get the last laugh. Now, that job is in internal audit. And internal audit is basically the equivalent of the snitch in the company. I'm the critique. I tell people how to do their jobs better. So as you can tell, I don't have many friends at work. But when I was in Kuwait, where I moved to Canada from Kuwait, so not from squalor of Egypt, I moved from the riches of Kuwait to here. When I was in Kuwait, I combined my profession of internal audit with my passion of running. I love running a lot. And I would take part in the races that are put on in Kuwait in the, 3-month gap when the weather is tolerable, not too hot to burn the skin off of you. And I made friends with the people who own the companies that put on the races. There were only two in Kuwait. One of those companies was owned by a gentleman with many names, and he is the subject of my story today. His name is Yusuf. In Kuwaiti, it would be Yusuf al-Jna'i. In Egyptian, we would say Yusuf al-Qana'i, and in English, you'd say Yusuf al-Qana'i. Yusuf was a really interesting person. He lost a dramatic amount of weight over his youth. He was like over 100 kilograms, and he slimmed down to a toned physique. He's all about, doing sports, and he would put on these races. And what I would do is I would take on these races and then write a little article in my blog about how that race was. And initially, we were friends. When we first started, we were friends because I admired him, I looked up to him. And as I started writing my critiques of his races, as you can tell, he started to not be so fond of me. And little by little, I took that as a challenge. I'm like, you know what? So I'm gonna keep going at you until you make your races better. Down the line, I lost my job in Kuwait. And around the same time, I had been given the opportunity to put on any event of my choosing for any cause that is worthy. And of course, my cause was running. And I put on this race. And once I did, I reached out to Yusuf and I said, hey, look, I'm putting on a race and I need you to help me promote it. I would have thought he would have told me to go to hell, but he helped me out. And once he saw what I was capable of doing, he reached out to me and he said, well, since you're so fond of running your mouth, why don't you come on board and make these races better? It was during my working with Yusuf, doing races, that I met with one of his clients, Fawzia Sultan Rehabilitation Institute. They used to put on a 10K race called Run Kuwait every year. And every year I would attend. And every year I would write an article because Yusuf was running the race. The CEO of the company was in the meeting and they looked at me and said, you're Ayman. We would print out your blog post and read it to Yusuf when he would come at the end of the race, and we'd say, look, this is what you have to do better next year. So I really was a thorn in his side. But he was able to put all that aside when he knew that we can both sync together. Sync as in S-Y-N-C, not S-I-N-K. We became really close friends, best friends, if you can put a label to it. And I thrive to say that the reason we gelled so well is that I never wanted anything from Yusuf, and he never wanted anything from me. He never had an ulterior motive, like, I will work with you because A, B, C. He's the kind of friend that I can rant at for as long as I want, say whatever I have on my mind, and I am sure that we will still be friends the next day, as I am with him. And that is the epitome of relationships that we should all be striving for, whether professional or personal. To have a person in your life that you can just speak your mind with and not be afraid of consequence. I went through a lot in those years where I lost my job and found other work, and I worked with Yusuf and I learned so much from him, and he will equally say he's learned a lot from me. And I just wanted to say, he's probably not watching this because it's really late at night in Kuwait, but thank you, Yusuf, and I look forward to seeing you in November. Thank you, everyone.
One more time, please. You are the person who tells the best stories about your history. I mean, actually getting from point A to point B. You've told stories about that 4 or 5 times. They have always been different. They've always had different points. They've always had different emotional highs and lows. That is difficult. And you make it look easy. So damn you, but also congratulations. We have someone here who I don't think I've seen before this particular evening. I have absolutely no idea what they're going to do. I know what their name is. Is Amy still here? Please. I used to do tech support, so here you go. Would you like to sit or stand?
I'm gonna probably sit, I think. Cool. Mostly sit. I'll make jump up. Be careful.
How's that?
A little bit. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Don't mind me.
Testing. Hi there. This is my second time. Last month was my very first time. I write stories and poetry mostly. Today I'm going to tell you a story about an orange vest. So I brought an orange vest. I'm a teacher. Can you hear me? Closer. And about 18 years ago, they told us we all had to wear an orange vest. We have to wear the orange vest when we're outside, when we're in the hallways, when we're on any kind of duty watching kids. The point is that you would see this and you would know that you're an adult and the kids would come running, oh, help me. So there was a lot of pushback, can we say that? They didn't want to fucking wear the orange vest. Like, maybe it was because it was the crossing guard vest or whatever it was. People were like, how can they make us wear this vest? It was anything. For teachers, anything. You ask them to do something different out of the norm, forget it. They don't want to do it, right? They were angry like someone shit in their cornflakes, like that angry, like to put on the vest. And I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. So I started to act like the orange vest was very sexy. And I would just to kind of, because it was so funny how everyone was so mad. And so I'd put the orange vest on and I would be like, oh, does anyone have a stop sign? And I would just be like really like silly about the orange vest because I wanted to lighten it because it became, like, if you can believe it, we've got nothing to do or something, that this is such a big deal. Now, everyone just grabs the orange vest, it's nothing. But when it first got put on, oh my God. So I went home and I wrote a story about the orange vest. And here it goes. It's flash fiction. So flash fiction is anything, I think up to 1,000 words, they say. Okay. It's called The Orange Vest. Julie was a crossing guard that walked my children each day across Main Street. She was filled with a joy I'd never seen before. She always smiled no matter what the weather. She gently prodded the children along, holding her stop sign high. I only walk them on Fridays, as I work from home then. The other days, my wife walked them. At first, I thought I loved Fridays because I wasn't sitting in traffic. But it didn't take long to realize I was excited to see Julie. Her ruddy cheeks and glinting hazel eyes made me feel giddy inside. I tried to think of witty things to say to her as I walked Sarah and Jeremy down the street. And as soon as I saw the neon orange vest in the distance, my heart beat faster. Hey, Bob, said Julie. Hey, Julie. Hard to believe it's November with this warm weather. I love it. Julie only said positive things. If it was raining, she'd smile and say the farmers were happy. On cold days, she'd say that we needed chilly days to appreciate the warm ones. She was so different from my wife. whose glass was always half empty, with chemically treated water. Lynn was in sales, and I guess it was a lot more stressful than crossing kids from one side of the street to the other. But she had never beamed like Julie, even back when we were in college. In the beginning, I was energized on Fridays, popping out of bed at 6 a.m. on my own, a full half hour before the alarm. But soon, all the other days seemed to take too long, with Saturday feeling like dread, its distance from Friday too hard to bear. One time, I even forgot Sarah's lunch on purpose so I'd have to run back home, and this way I'd get a double bill of Julie. I only did that once. I didn't want her to think that something was up. I started to think there was something magical about the orange vest. Or maybe it was the color orange that made Julie so full of bliss. I bought Lynn an orange sweater, though I thought it might cheer her up. She just looked at me and said, "You've got to be kidding. Have you ever seen me wear anything orange?" "Sorry, I thought you might like it." "Yeah, right. I don't think you thought about me at all. If you had, you wouldn't have come home with something orange." Fucking Lynn, eh? Then, the next Friday, I decided I was going to touch Julie's vest. Maybe just pat her on the back, casually sweep my hand across the vest. I needed to know how it felt. "Hi, Julie," I said, and as I brushed my hand across her back, feeling the polyester mesh under my fingers. My hand tingled and my insides felt all warm and cozy. I knew I wasn't crazy. The vest had supernatural qualities. Later, when I went home, I thought about how I could get the vest for Lynn. Fucking Lynn. And what she'd say if I asked her to put it on. Even if I could find a way to get the vest, the chances of getting Lynn to even look at it were bleak. All week I thought about the vest, its magical qualities, and how it might transform Lynn. I knew it couldn't really change her, but I felt inexplicably hopeful. When Friday came, I devised a plan to distract Julie, and I cut a tiny piece of the orange mesh from that striking crossing guard vest she wore. I thought I could put the scrap under Lynn's pillow, or maybe in her briefcase, and it might alter her. The plan involved me dropping two things at once and looking frazzled. And then, when she bent down to help me, I was going to clip a tiny piece of the orange. But then I started to worry. What if I snipped Julie's vest and it lost its charm and she somehow turned back into being a mere mortal? Fridays were all I had. I couldn't risk it. The end.
Amy, please, one more time. There's a lot to unpack there. That was really beautiful. I think everyone can kind of fixate on someone they like in some object. Like it's going to be a jacket or a sweater or a vest. I had a girlfriend who always wore sandalwood, and a lot of it. And when she'd come to my place, when she'd leave, if she sat on the couch would still have sandalwood. And I could smell in other people, and I thought, well, that doesn't smell like Abigail. Abigail wears sandalwood. What do you wear? Why are you wearing that? Somebody else I know likes that. Someone I love knows. Oh, I love her. Oh, damn. That was part of the realization. It was to sit back on my couch after she left and realize I can still smell the sandalwood. I'm sunk. For the record, I married her. You want to know how long that lasted? 26 years. We're still married. I would tell you more, but it would embarrass my wife. I want to tell a story now, and being a host gives me a really unique advantage because there were two stories I heard tonight that I would like to riff off of. I'm going to give the audience your choice. I could talk about friendship, because I liked Eamon's piece about that. Or I could make a point about religion and the time I impersonated a Catholic schoolboy. Friendship. It wasn't for a weird purpose. It was to sneak into a vent. That's why. Friendship. Do we have a consensus of friendship here? Okay. My wife, a while ago, asked me, can you explain men? You're looking at it. I have two sons, and every so often, Abby will turn into a 10-year-old girl and go, I'm surrounded by boys! I'm surrounded by stupid, smelly boys! And I can't really say she's wrong. She said, can you explain men? Like, there are some people you don't talk to, and then they show up, and you act like you've been speaking to them daily for the next 10 years, and you won't see them for 3 years, and you'll see them at random. We'll be in Toronto, and you'll run into them in the street, and you'll have a conversation like you've known them forever. And they said, well, you kind of do that. In my limited experience, most friendships between men is you are willing to do a favor for somebody if they ask. And the key is you're not supposed to ask. It's weird. I always remember very small things. I knew a guy who ran a restaurant, and every so often he would give me a free dinner if I performed there, or he'd give me a free beer. And in terms of money, it wasn't a lot, but he didn't have to do it. And making that gesture goes a long way. A lot of the people I remember, I knew a guy who worked in a jewelry store. He repaired a watch for me. He could have charged me anything he wanted. He didn't. So he's got a special place in my heart for doing that. If he called me at 2 in the morning and asked for a favor, I'd probably do it. I might complain about it, but it's like it's been earned. It's like a contract. If you have friends like that, you hold on to them. So some people may understand why I did what I did in this story. And this happened around 2 years ago here in Hamilton. At around 10 in the morning, I'm on the computer. It's a Sunday morning. I've got coffee. I'm on Facebook looking, see if anyone's leaving interesting messages. And I get a message from Dale. Dale is in Toronto. Dale is a graphic artist, and he's got 2 kids, and we've known each other for around 20, 25 years. I hadn't talked to him for a while, but I get this Facebook message saying, Michael, I need a favor. And I knew what was going to come out of it from the tone of his voice that I didn't hear. Like I'm staring at a text window on Facebook. I type back, anything, what do you need? And he said, I need you to go to A&W and deliver a burger and a root beer to Juravinsky Hospital. I haven't talked to him for 2 months or so. I have no idea what this is about, but from that text window, I have pieced together he knows someone in hospital, and this is some kind of a gesture that he can't do on short notice. So this is not just a favor. It's a holy order, sort of. And I don't mind doing it. The thing that I find difficult to describe is the gravity of that message. Because it was very little. If I had said, I can't because I'm taking the kids to the park or something like that, he would have said, no problem, and it would have been over. But I know him well enough to know that that was an important thing to do. And I think he knows me well enough that I would pick up on that. So I said, okay, tell me what floor, in what room, and let me go online. And it's 10 in the morning, and I'm online. Okay, there is an A&W. I can drive there. It'll take me 15 minutes, and then I can get to Juravinsky. And I finally said, okay, I can get all this done by 11:30. Who am I seeing? And he gave me the names, a guy named Steve. With no further details, he said, can you simply, at around 11:30, you're going to go to the 7th floor on the west wing. You just tell them that you're dropping something off for Steve. And when you see him, you say, this is a special delivery from Dale in Toronto. you'll probably have to put on a mask. Okay. And I'm putting it together. The guys in Juravinsky, the the pandemic was just beginning to lift at that point. I'm going to be wearing a mask because the guy's immunocompromised. I'm still there. And my kids are running around behind me, and Abby comes in and goes, "What are we doing today?" And I said, I will explain this later. I'm doing a delivery for Dale. And she kind of laughed and said, "What's he?" And then saw the look on my face and said, "Okay." Because there's a gravity. And I don't know where the gravity comes from, but it was there. So I did this. I got dressed. I waited till 11 o'clock when they start serving burgers. I bought a burger and a root beer, and I threw in some fries for the hell of it. Drove to Juravinsky Hospital, found some place to park, walked in carefully and said, "I need to deliver something to the 7th floor." And they said, "Okay, that's the cancer ward. Do they know you're coming?" And I said, "No, I have been asked to deliver something to Steve." They looked up the name and they said, "Okay, we think he's awake." And I'm not sure what I'm walking into, but it's sort of anticlimactic because I did walk into a room and I was asked to put on a mask and walked into a room where there's a guy wearing a wool cap, I'm guessing because he's lost his hair to chemotherapy, who's sitting with a woman who I'm assuming he's married to, or I'm not sure. And they both looked at me baffled. And I said, "Hi, I'm only here for a moment." And he started saying, "Who are you?" And I said, "This is from Dale in Toronto with his compliments." And the look in his face went from, "Oh, for God, really? Really?" And I could feel the weight. I mean, this is probably an inside joke between the two of them. And I've never met the guy in the hospital, but there is a significance to that act. And I said, "Here you go." And no, I was asked very politely, so I figured, I live in Hamilton. I talked to him for a minute and a half and said, literally, I live 10 minutes away, and, enjoy. And both he and the woman there, reached for their wallets and said, "What do we?" I said, "No, nothing. You owe me absolutely nothing. Don't worry about it. All the best." And walked out. I went home, went back into Facebook and said, "It has been done." And he said, "Thank you." And there's a weight there again, which is impossible to explain because you've got THANKYOU, 8 letters, on a flat screen, and something was accomplished. As it happens, this gentleman had been treated for a couple of months, and he had passed away a couple months later. I do remember talking to Dale about it at one point. He mentioned that he had a friend from university, and he said, he's not doing well. I'm going to come up to Hamilton and shake his hand. And apparently he made it longer than that. So I sort of, on some subliminal level, knew what was happening. But I also felt the need, only through a few words. And I think maybe I did the right thing. I still see Dale. He comes to Hamilton occasionally. He has not let me pay for a drink in the time this has happened. He's always treating me to things. And he does not have to. But I know why he's doing it. And if you're lucky, you have friends, and whether it's someone you see every month or every day or every 5 years, you will have a collection of people that on some level I could call them at 2 a.m. for a favor, and they might bitch at you about it, but they would do it automatically because you have earned something. And I'm fortunate enough I've built that with some people I've known for 6 months. Or I've built it from people I didn't talk to 10 years ago, but something happened and we found ourselves in the same level. So Damon's point about friendship, it's rare. I always tell people I count on one hand the number of people I really trust. And at one point I could have counted on 3 fingers the number of people I really trust. Maybe by the time I die I'll be able to count both hands and 2 feet. Just hold on to it. Anybody here, if you're lucky enough to have that in your life, it's ethereal. Don't let it go, okay? Thank you for your time. I just realized I don't have the book with me. Who is next, please? Come on up. The lady from the bus, or the lady from the not bus.
Yes, not
Thank you very much for coming up.
Thank you. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so it's my husband and I's anniversary. Thank you. And we were having a fun night downtown Hamilton, and we had to pick a restaurant. And I'm here to inform you that I broke my golden rule of restaurants, which is never pick fusion food when it's run by white people. Oh, man. So I thought I would just entertain you all with our experience. So basically, we're looking at restaurants, and we're making tomorrow and Sunday epic meals. We have, what are we making?
Rendang and mapo tofu.
Thank you. Rendang and mapo tofu. So we are already covering some epic meals. So I'm like, I don't feel like, maybe just something that we haven't really had before. We usually eat at ethnic restaurants because the food is just so much better. I grew up in the east coast of Canada, where if it is not from the sea, it's probably just meat and potatoes. So seasoning is salt and pepper. So I know better. I grew up, I know, and yet I looked at that menu and I went, you know what, this is interesting. He's interested in the steak, and I'm looking at some different things, and I'm like, I think that this could be cool. It was not. I should have known better, but I didn't. We go there, and it's got that weird vibe where it's like, I told my husband after, I was like, man, we have went to Asian restaurants where the server and us, we don't know what each other are saying. And they give you that side eye like, oh, you're here. We don't really do this restaurant for you. This is like very authentic. And we're like, no, we are here for it. Give it to us. And, and we'll go back. We'll go back again and again. Doesn't matter if they want us there, we're coming. But the vibe at the restaurant was one of those things where it's like, I just feel like telling restaurant owners, like, if you are mean to the staff, it is impossible for whatever minimum wage you're paying them to not look a little sad, look a little beaten down. There's just a vibe of like smile that you're just like, oh no. Like, what's going on here at this restaurant? Because I'm worried behind the scenes that y'all aren't being just a little bit patronized too. Yeah, so it was one of those vibes where you're just like, oh, this is why I don't go to white people restaurants. Because at least when I go to our little hole in the walls and there's some family argument going on in the back, I'm like, oh yeah, well, the food's still gonna be delicious. It does not matter. But yeah, we did have a fun day. We had a fun time, but I did want to tell you about the fact that white people don't like flavor, and I'm very tempted. My husband doesn't want me to do this because he's like, I don't need like 10 years from now for it to pop up in our notifications. Hey, remember that time your wife hated the restaurant and review bombed them? So he's told me, please don't post to Google. But I do want to tell you all, at least so I get it off my chest, that the beef short rib that I had was okay. It was acceptable. It's tender. It has some sort of soy sauce marinade thing, so there's some umami at least making up for some things. And it was okay. But they placed it upon some bok choy. It was very watery, no flavor. And then on top of, it was supposed to be like an onigiri recreation. So there's these like fried rice, except in the middle was the soggiest, saddest white rice. And I was like, I would have taken it being slightly soggy if the rice had been to a quality where there was a flavor. But you also didn't buy high enough quality rice to allow for the sogginess to be overcome. So I'm eating it, and I'm like, and my husband's like, oh, yeah, I think that bottle of water that they offered us at the beginning, I think that's going to be expensive. It was called still water. And they also offered sparkling water. And I just thought they meant, like, we're going to serve you some tap water, like still water, like they're being clever. No. It was the most pretentious bottle of stuff. I mean, it was water. It was $8. So, it was one of those types of spots. Definitely not on King William. Yes, now you all know. Context has been given. What was it not called?
Don't tell us when you're on stage.
Yes. And my husband's dish was the steak dish, and it was on, those like long broccolis? Yeah, you're going to a fancy restaurant because they're like the long broccoli. And then it was on some polenta fries, and he gave me one bite because I can't eat dairy, and this thing is coated in butter. So I'm like, I'm gonna have one. I gotta have one bite. I'll be okay. And so I was chewing it, and then from the little broccolini heads, they're so small, and yet the largest gush of water into my mouth. And it was so cold, just like, not the still water, not the $8 bottle of water, but just like from the boiling pot water. And I'm like, oh, no. And that's when my experience took a hard turn. And I'm like, I've done it. I did this to myself. I had all these restaurants. He researched all these lovely new restaurants in Hamilton. Hamilton is the greatest city outside of Toronto for restaurants. It is great here. And I have been enjoying these restaurants for over 15 years, over 20 years, and I should have known better. So I'd like to thank you all, and please always remember, never eat white people food, especially fusion.
Thank you. Please give it up one more time. I get your point where you said the East Coast and spice is like salt or pepper. My mother's family is Scots and Irish. So, a boiled potato is considered spicy. I do understand that.
Roasted potato. No, that's too much.
We moved here 15 years ago. 9 out of the 10 restaurants we've ever set foot in Hamilton have been good. And that includes complete hole in the wall in the middle of a strip mall that should be awful. And you walk in and they're hand-making pasta in the background or something. So are you serious? You're actually doing this? I haven't had a disastrous meal. Of course, you will not tell me where you went after the show, okay? just to keep just to keep everybody honest. There's someone out here named John C. Okay. The man who needs no introduction because I do not know anything about him other than the fact that he did not get on a bus and he walked here on a story night and might be breaking his storytelling virginity? Maybe? No. You're not a virgin? You lied to me. Here he comes, John C. Thank you.
I'm going to opt out just because I don't want to dox anyone. But other than that, I wanted to share this story. My wife encouraged me to share this story. I am not breaking my my stage virginity, maybe my storytelling virginity a little bit. I was a famous actor in high school. I was the real Laurence Olivier of Barton Secondary. My wife knows because it's part of the reason she fell in love with me, but that's a story for another time. portage. We saw a moose.
Walking past your toe very carefully as to not further. Can we have one more time for John C? That is a very cool story and also a very cool job. I suspect it is not the easiest and most relaxing job in the world. Have coffee. A lot of coffee will help. We're going to move on to somebody I have seen numerous times and is one of the movers and the shakers here and is always good. And same deal, I always like trying to figure out what direction it's going to go in, and I never have any idea. Ladies and gentlemen, George.
Good evening. Well, the first word that pops into mind is fuck. Because I, much like Jake, like to improvise. I don't like to have a preset kind of idea of what I'm about to do. But every time an idea pops in my head, somebody comes up on stage and they speak about that, I'm like, fuck! Like, I have to fuck, I can't do that anymore. Like, I had a story about my immigration, then Akram comes and he's like, oh, fuck, you know? I had a story about friendship that would have included one of my best friends, who is Ayman, who never mentioned me in his story. So I'm like, fuck him. I'm not gonna do that. I wanted to talk about morality a bit, but then Toshi did that. So it's like, fuck, 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 fuck. But in all this fuckiness going on in my brain, I still kind of mustered up what I think is a story that kind of combines everybody that preceded me. And it's a story about wealth, not in the sense we look at wealth. When people think about wealth, the first idea that pops into your head, like what it did right now, is money. And on my list of wealth, this would be bottom, but like it's at the very bottom of the list, and then you have to drop down 10 other spots, and that's where money is for me. My wife hates that because she goes, yeah, we can't, you can't, like you have to consider. Wealth to me comes in various shapes and forms. One of which being, I have friends that I'm lucky to have, friends that would take bullets for me, and friends I would take bullets for, obviously. Luckily, we didn't have to test that, even though I am your third token Arab for the night. And you know how Arabs like to come in 3, 2, 1. So my story starts in university. I was a very mild kid growing up. I did well in school. I was always to myself. I kept to myself, never spoke to anybody. I had a very set, like a predefined set of things that I like to do, which is wake up early in the morning, watch some cartoons, get on the bus, go to school, come back, read some comic books, play some video games, read some books, and go to sleep. And that was my life forever. Until I got to university, college. And I went to engineering school. And after 2 months being at the university, one of my professors notices that I'm always like alone. Like I'll be sitting at the end of the room, all by myself, not talking to anybody. And you figure, obviously, okay, so that person came into this college, has no friends. But you kind of, I think in his head, it went like this, like, oh, but in 2 months, he should have at least be sitting with somebody at least. So he asks me to come to his office, not to fuck. So I go, and I speak to him, and he goes, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm dandy. And he goes, would you like to speak to the on-staff psychologist? And I said, oh yeah, sure. I thought I've never been to a psychologist. Let me do that. So I go and see her, and she said, oh, you're beyond my scope. I should refer you to a psychiatrist. And I went, and I did all the tests they can do, like brain scans, blah, 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 blah. And turns out after 3 months, he tells me I have autism, which at the moment, it shook me because we have autistic people in my family, but they're window lickers, you know, like they sit on the short bus, just to keep it in theme with what you guys have experienced today with the bus. But I thought, I'm not like them. But I was lucky enough to have good mental agility that I'm like, all right, so the title doesn't matter, it's what it does. So I figured, let me get a hold and let me learn and hone what it is to have autism, obviously high-functioning autism. So I stopped caring about the label. But I started seeing that everything I've done in my life was, yeah, it leads to that. Like I've always been to myself. I've always loved the same things. I do things in a particular way. I'm very secluded to myself. And I've seen people getting broken by when they finally figure out what's wrong with them. But I figured there's nothing wrong with me. It's actually the best way to survive. And throughout my life, this has become my true wealth, which was my curiosity. And I'm a highly curious person. I'm a filmmaker now. Like I had my production house in Kuwait where Ayman and I lived, not together. I had a marketing agency, but that's not what I studied. I studied engineering. But because I was curious about filmmaking, it led to me jumping the boat and shifting careers. And that's what I want to talk to you about, which is curiosity, when fed, becomes competence. And I think I am wealthy. I have an amazing wife at home. She's very calculated. She's a lawyer, so I can't fuck around. So she's very well calculated. Her job is risk management. And for somebody that does that job, to marry me, who's like a risk, like I thrive on risk. I love jumping out of a plane without knowing what's gonna happen next. And she's as crazy as me in that sense, that she jumps with me and she goes, we'll figure it out on the way down. And it's it's through her through her support that I figured there's nothing wrong with me. It's actually a good, healthy way to survive. And I'm lucky enough to have had a good career in Kuwait, where I could afford to be curious. Because I know it's not easy to follow your curiosity, you know, when you have a bill coming at the end of the month. But I was lucky enough to be able to afford that. And in that sense, I still think wealth is not just a relative term. Wealth is literally your ability to take something and transform it. And that has been my MO for the past 20 years of my life, where I would just get a good gut feeling about something and I would dive straight in. Like, I wouldn't stop until I figured most of it out. And the moment I figured it out, and if it becomes boring, I'm like, done. I don't need more of it. But it's enough for me that my curiosity is fed. And when you do that over and over and over and over, day in, day out, and you kind of obsess about the thing you want to learn, it becomes part of you. And it becomes a language you speak. And it becomes interweaved with everything else you do. There is not one way to do things. And it's because there is not one way to think. I think different than you. I think different than you. So we all think differently. But the more you plug in those competencies, these curiosities, these questions you have, the more you answer these questions, the more you move with more confidence, and the more you are able to put things together that otherwise nobody does. And that's the definition of creativity, which to me is still considered wealth. That's my true wealth. And I'm obviously not wealthy enough to get out of Hamilton, but, you know, to be fair, you have to follow your curiosity. I pride myself on the fact that I say, if I die tonight, I regret nothing. There is nothing that I wanted to do that I haven't done. And it evolves with me. And because the more you learn, the more you evolve in your brain, and the more you want to acquire different things. I owe my career to curiosity. I owe meeting my wife to my curiosity, because at the time I was friends with her sister. And that's how we met in Kuwait. And at the time, Facebook used to be a little bitch. Like, they would tell you, hey, somebody commented on Ayman's wall if you want to see it. So I saw that notification from her sister's profile. I'm like, oh, they have the same family name. Maybe it's her sister. So I click on her. And I fell in love instantly. But then I figured, fuck, she's in Argentina. It's never going to happen. It was until 2 months later that I just happened to see her sister in an event, just haphazardly. And she goes, come, I want to introduce you to my sister. And I just did the math very quickly. And I'm like, oh my God, sister. Oh, is it her? She's here, she's here. And she calls on her. And my wife, Celeste, turns around. And I was planted in the concrete. Like, I couldn't move. And I looked at her and she goes, hi, I'm Celeste. And she's the sweetest person ever. And when she said that, I looked at her, I was like, hello, I'm Georges. And she goes, oh, you're French. And I said, no, I don't know why I did that. And she laughed. And I promise you, at that moment is when I figured out that's the person I want to die with. And I want to make her laugh every day in my life. And this, I always mention her, and she hates that, and she's watching right now, so I don't give a fuck. But I own it to her, because without her support, my curiosity could be dead in the water. She never pushes me to do something I don't want to do, except a few things in bed. But she never pushes me out of my discomfort. Even when she notices that I'm uncomfortable, she lets me be, because she knows that's how I thrive, that's how I grow. So, to sum it up, my wealth is the following. I have an amazing partner in my life. I have amazing friends. And I have what I think, a good brain that allows me to weave all these things together and allows me to move better in the world. Thank you.
George again, please. You just used a line I'm going to steal outright. Curiosity breeds confidence. Competence. I'm not going to steal it properly, apparently. Yeah, when fed, that becomes competence, yeah. That makes so much sense to me. It's like, so many things in my life, I just thought, why would someone bother doing that? Why don't I try it, see if I can get away with it? And it worked. I used to work in film. I've been an actor. I do a lot of editing. I ended up with like these really serious white-collar jobs, and I have no idea how I did that other than, oh yeah, well, I think I could probably do that. Maybe I could take that skill from one discipline to the other, and it's worked, knock wood, thus far. So you summed up what I was thinking far better than I could. Thank you very much. We got one person left. We have a Frank out here. Hiding behind the post. That's why I can't see you. The gentleman walked in. He signed up. I know nothing about him. He will not disappoint you. Will you? Hope not. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank H.
Everyone's taller than me in this place. I've only spoken to Mike once. I was at the Hamilton home show, and I was supposed to be the guy, Ask a Pro. And so I walk in and they hook this mic on me, and people ask me questions, and everyone in the building could hear me. And I said, I can answer any question about home improvements except masonry, cement, concrete work. And 9 out of 10 questions were about this. Anyway, that's a different story. So I am truly getting my feet wet up here. So feel free to turn that orange light on whenever you want. I'm so impressed with my girlfriend's effort up here. That's what inspired me. But I want to tell everyone who's left here that you were brilliant tonight. Way more brilliant than I thought you would be. Anyway, my girlfriend is Amy, and she says I'm not as funny as I think I am. That's so I'm going to talk about the military-industrial complex. And I am just kidding. Although I did see in the bathroom someone wrote Free Palestine, and that touches me to my soul. Okay, I'm going to take you on a quick little journey, a journey that took 9 years of my life. I started when I was 57 years old, and the story about camping has reminded me that I have a little story to tell you. So 9 years ago, my brother-in-law and my sister said, we're paddling a canoe from Guelph, Ontario to the Atlantic Ocean. Do you want to come? And I said, of course. And I was a little late joining them. I joined them on the second day of their journey. They had already completed the Speed River to the Grand River. And at the Grand River, I joined them and thought, what the fuck have I got myself into? The first place we camped, or set up camp, was in Dunnville on an abandoned concrete pier. And I did not have the proper gear for that rough camping. The next year, I improved my gear. And actually, every year for 9 years, I improved the gear that I had. End of year 1, year 2, we made it to Lake Erie, and we went to the mouth of the Niagara River. And if you know the Niagara River, it's not very canoe-friendly. So the person that I was canoeing with, we decided to take the Rainbow Bridge or the Love Bridge or whatever the frick that bridge is called to the Buffalo, New York side. But my sister, her husband, and their 2 boys who are very good in a canoe, they went out on the Niagara River, turned towards Lake Erie, which is the opening of the river, and started paddling on one side, and that drew them to the center. Immediately, the Coast Guard from Canada and the United States showed up, and they said they were okay. They let the current turn them downstream. They paddled on the other side, and it drew them to the United States. So, year 2, they continued the next year and went all the way to Niagara Falls, where 5 different police departments met them. So we decided to take the Erie Canal, which runs from Buffalo to Oswego, which is the end of Lake Ontario. And I have to say that I was a little hesitant to travel through upper New York State, but the people were lovely. My brother-in-law plays a bugle, and there are a number of locks. And in every lock, as we were lowered down, he played his bugle, and people came from all over to listen to him. So now we're in year 3 or year 4. We're in Kingston, and we head out down, what's the big river called? St. Lawrence. And in my mind, I pictured the St. Lawrence as this big, huge river where you couldn't see the other side. But it's not like that until year 9. And spectacular. Imagine being, by this time now, I'm 67 years old, lived in Ontario my whole life, and never seeing the St. Lawrence. Spectacular. And we made it to salt water. We paddled through belugas and seals, and the natives called it the sea. So we accomplished our goal, the Speed River to the sea. And I just want to add that the most amazing thing about our journey was the people we met. With the exception of uniformed authority, people met us with open arms. We slept in people's backyards. They helped us with all our needs and made it possible. So before that light comes on, I'm going to wrap up, and I promise you next time I come up here, I will be funnier.
Give it up for Frank one more time, please. That's a very long trip. I've been on the Speed River on a kayak and almost drowned on several occasions. So a canoe even strikes me as scarier, because at least a kayak, I know how to flip them, so I feel less likely of drowning. But a canoe, once it's flipped, they tend to sink. So congratulations. This has been a cool night. We have done this wide spectrum of topics. We have had people like literally walk in off the street. Amazing. I would not have expected a word that came out of anybody here tonight. And the fact that we've got this like crazy quilt is why I love doing this particular job, which is why I love this forum. So would everyone here please give yourself a hand? And by that I mean applause, nothing else, because that went horribly wrong one night. I won't tell you about it. I want to remind people, by the way, this whole thing has been broadcast and videoed. So if anybody wants a recording of their performance tonight, please talk to the gentleman behind the counter here, and they will arrange for you to get your recording. It's around $10 a piece. Just ask over there. Everybody else here, this event happens on the first Friday of every month, so we're going to do another one in October. Thank you, everybody, for coming out here. I always say thank you for encouraging my behavior, and I keep trying not to say that, but it comes out naturally. I stole that line from Bobcat Goldthwait, so if his lawyers are watching, I've acknowledged it. There you go. I've had a great time. I really hope you have too. Thank you, everybody. One more time, T-shirts, refreshments, video. Come back next month. Thank you all.